Hi, I'm Paul Verhoeven. I'm the director of Starship Troopers, and you watch. What was it that I have to say? The comic book that I grew up with, of course, were European. At the time, I was living in Europe. So when I was a child, it was mostly the hero of my time was the Belgian writer Hergé, who did Tintin, and that was my favorite comic book. I don't know if you can do that anymore now. You know, there's a lot of that stuff is already in Indiana Jones and some other movies. So I don't know if you seems to be already used to a large degree in all kind of movies, that kind of storytelling, adventure, and whatever. I mean, I read a lot of comic books when I was young, but by the time I started to make science fiction movies, that was 48 or 49 when I did RoboCop, and I didn't really go back to my old comic books to check it out, or even the new ones. I got that script and just thought, okay, this is the script, and I'm going to shoot this movie, this script, without really thinking too much about the past. But I think a lot of the ideas of RoboCop and Total Recall are based, of course, on having read in comic book or in just as a novel a lot of science fiction when I was younger. So I'm surely heavily influenced, you know. For example, now this is different, but Basic Instinct was heavily influenced by Hitchcock's movie Vertigo. Although I didn't look at Vertigo anymore when I was shooting Basic Instinct, you know, that was 20 years ago. But if I look at the movie now, Basic Instinct, and see, if I compare it to Vertigo, that why and how I was influenced. And the same applies to RoboCop, of course, especially because Frankenstein and all these, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, looking for the past. I mean, who am I, where I'm going? I mean, these kind of cosmological questions that you find also in Frankenstein and some other movies in the same category. There's another comic book that I really like, and it's much more recent. My kids saw it, were reading it, and then they gave it to me because they thought it was really interesting to make a movie about it. It's called Children of the Wind, and it appeared in France about 10 years ago. It's 4 episodes, and it's really sexy and pretty audacious. And so that would be something to consider. It's historical, it's with ships and pirates and all that stuff, and very sexy girls. So that's the only one that basically that I'm aware of that should be done or could be done as a film. There certainly will be a resistance of American studios to do a movie like Children of the Wind, because it goes pretty far in the sexual, with its sexual connotations, and even what you see really already in the comic books. Now, if I'm going to shoot that, it will even be worse, isn't it? So it would certainly be close to an NC-17. And the sexuality at the moment is not really something that can be easily done in the studio. So I don't know if they would be hesitant, not perhaps because it's European, but because it's too sexual. In the case of Starship Troopers, I think the trailer is pretty honest in showing you elements of the movie that are there much bigger and much longer and with much more context. But it's, you see the spaceships, you see some of the insects, not all of them. There is, of course, the movie has more diversity than what you can see in 2 minutes. What is lacking in the trailer, what you don't see, is that the film has really characters. It's not a science fiction movie or an action movie where the people are kind of introduced in 5 minutes and then they run and shoot and kill. That's not the case. It's really a movie where you build up the characters for nearly an hour so that you really know them, you care about them, I think you love them really, and then you see them and they're all kind of in a certain innocence in it because they come from high school, they go to boot camp, and there's no war. I mean, it's just, but then suddenly war breaks out and they have to they get into these horrible fights on other planets with these insects. So it's really going from the innocence of youth to the cruelty of war. And I think it was absolutely necessary to know the characters because some of them die or are severely wounded, and I thought that if you wouldn't care enough about them, it would be meaningless. So the movie and the scriptwriter have done an effort really to make the movie a piece that is where the characters are established clearly, instead of if treating them like cattle.
Do you find that creating whole new worlds for science fiction movies is an appealing way to start in terms of creating a canvas for a motion picture?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's these worlds that you have in your head, isn't it? You grow up with them vaguely. You know, you think about other worlds. I mean, of course, I believe that that there will be a lot of planets with life, and life will be very differentiated, but it will probably not be that different from here on Earth. So you dream as a child, you dream about going there. Now, of course, we cannot go there, certainly not in my lifetime, but perhaps according to the laws of Einstein, you might not be able to go there at all. It's too far away. Now, perhaps they find something else like wormholes, if they exist, to do that, but it's all very theoretical, and basically it's just, let's say, very speculative science, of course. So in your opinion, my opinion, I think you cannot go there. You will never be able to go there during your lifetime. So it's a great way of going there in your mind and being this lonely fighter on a foreign planet, which I think is a very appealing idea, that you are into, I mean, we know this world so well. I think it's great to think about worlds that you don't know. I mean, in the Middle Ages, of course, you could think about going to the United States or to America, whatever was there, but that was still an adventure, and you didn't know what to expect. But now we know nearly everything. So this world nearly has lost its mystery a little bit. And so going to other planets, then you can put yourself again in that position of, say, 500, 600, 700 or 1,000 years ago, where everything would be new and to be discovered. And I think that's the appeal. It's a new world to be discovered. You can open your mind to something which you have not been aware of. And that's a situation we have nearly lost on Earth. So I think it's very appealing to people. I think we did a lot of research in biology. We really tried to create animals or insects, whatever you want to call them. We call them arachnids in the movie. They're pretty big, I mean, much bigger than I am. And we based a lot of their behavior, the way of their fighting on biology. So it's really trying to create a species, another species that is still believable in a biological way. I mean, these insects don't have weapons. In fact, in the book, in the Robert Heinlein book, it's insect with weapons, you know, they can shoot and all that. That's not the case at all. We took that all out. We really went for animals that behave like an animal, but are ferocious, and they have perhaps some intelligence, and perhaps they have a lot of intelligence, but that's part of the structure and the mystery of the movie. And so it's a biological enemy, but a very convincing one, a real one, I mean. Whatever is real, of course, in fantasy world. I would hope that there would be a period of about 10 years where we could ourselves experiment with a sequel. And I have never liked sequels. I didn't do any of them. It's often been discussed and asked, Total Recall, even Basic Instinct, certainly RoboCop. And now you know that the rights to Total Recall are going to television, and they go for sequels and all that stuff. But I was never tempted. I thought it's done. I think that what I wanted to express, I did in RoboCop and Total Recall and Basic Instinct. And I think in the case of Starship Troopers, I thought we opened the door, but I think the door can be even wider open. I have the feeling here that there is a possibility to project more of my fears and fears for dying, fears for the unknown, or perhaps the appreciation of the unknown. That these kind of things can be explored even in a bigger way, I would say. So I think there is certainly a sequel possible to Starship Troopers that I would like to direct. So I hope they don't contaminate the material by doing it for television for some time, because with television it always becomes more toned down, isn't it? And the edges are gone, it's more acceptable, it's more humane, and this movie is pretty rough and edgy, and I hope the next one would be too. I mean, it's really about life and death, and it's one of the few movies probably nowadays where people that you like die.